Have you ever stopped, truly stopped, to think about what happens in the first few seconds after your heart stops beating? I'm not talking about theories, nor about empty speculations. I'm talking about that exact moment when your soul detaches, and for the first time, you see the world not with the eyes of the body, but with the clarity of eternity. The truth is, no one escapes this. Not you, not me. One day, everything you know, your name, your appearance, your possessions, even your dearest memories, will cease to hold the weight it has now. And in that silent and solemn instant, your soul will perceive things that no living human being is fully capable of understanding. But what if I told you that many of these things are already revealing themselves now, inside you, subtly, like a whisper from the eternal? Today, you will discover the 7 things your soul will perceive after death, spiritual truths that surpass human logic, and according to countless spiritual accounts, near-death experiences, and ancient traditions, emerge with unstoppable force once the veil of flesh is lifted. This video is not about fear, it's about awakening. It's about remembering that your soul has an origin and a destiny, and maybe, just maybe, the way you live now will determine whether those perceptions will be a source of peace or torment. Now close your eyes for a moment and imagine, because what comes next, you will never forget. It felt like waking up without knowing if I was dreaming or if I had finally awakened, but something was different. Very different. The feeling was one of lightness, as if the weight of the world had simply vanished, as if something I had carried my whole life had finally been left behind. For a brief moment, everything seemed too silent. No pain, no sound, no time. And then I saw, there in front of me, was my body, lying down, motionless, the same clothes, the same expression. But I was no longer inside it. I observed it as if I were another person, a witness to myself. This is the soul's first perception, the separation from the physical body. At that moment, there was no more doubt. I was not that body. I never was. It had been an instrument, a temporary dwelling, but the consciousness, the true me, was there, intact, free, and at the same time, completely disoriented. Many describe this moment as floating above the scene of their death, others as traversing a tunnel of energy or light. What everyone seems to agree on is that there is a sudden break with all that is material. You realize you no longer breathe, you no longer feel the ground, you no longer hear with your ears, but you perceive everything with a much sharper clarity. You see people arriving, maybe crying. You see desperate faces, unable to understand what has happened. And even if you try to scream, no one hears you, because you are no longer in a plane where sound travels as it used to. This perception brings a mix of astonishment and fascination. Astonishment because even after biological death, you continue to feel, you continue to be aware, you continue to exist. Fascination because the soul begins to understand that the end of the body is not the end of anything. On the contrary, it is the beginning of a new reality. But there is no time to remain trapped in that scene, as if something invisible were pulling you, calling you, summoning you to move forward. You feel that you are being carried, but not by hands. It is as if your very vibration determines the direction. And in this silent movement, something begins to change. A feeling that you are entering a space where time no longer counts. A place where everything you hid from yourself begins to surface. It is then that your soul perceives something even deeper, something beyond the separation from the body. It is time for the truth. You move, but not with your feet. You see, but not with your eyes. You feel, but not with your skin. The soul, now free, begins to traverse a kind of translucent dimension. The space around is not like the physical world. There are no walls, streets, or clocks, but there is presence, and there is a feeling that begins to grow inside you, like a wave that cannot be contained. The certainty that the truth is emerging. No filters, no excuses, no justifications. It is as if your entire existence begins to be illuminated from within, as if a mirror were placed before your essence, revealing who you truly were, not who you pretended to be. In this moment, there are no more masks. Everything that was hidden in the heart, every disguised intention, every hidden thought, every choice made in the silence of the mind, everything is revealed with a clarity impossible to ignore. You realize then that you never fooled anyone, least of all yourself. It is the awakening to the truth, and it does not ask for permission. In this new awareness, you feel not only what you did, but what you failed to do. The words you should have spoken, the hugs you denied out of pride, the choices you made out of fear, the shortcuts you took out of convenience, and above all, the truths you hid from yourself. The soul, before this revelation, does not need judges. It knows itself. It knows what was light and what was shadow. It knows what was love and what was ego. And here is the detail that many ignore in life. What condemns us is not God. It is our own conscience, which now free from the noise of the world, can see with total lucidity. Some feel relief, others shame. Some marvel at what they built, others despair at what they wasted. But there is no turning back. There is no edit or erase button, and yet it is not the end. This truth that pierces you with either pain or gratitude does not come to destroy, but to prepare, because what comes next is even more intense, something that no living human being can fully comprehend, but that all, without exception, will experience. The soul will be led to relive every moment of its own story. It's like watching a movie, but not as a spectator. You are inside every scene, reliving, feeling, perceiving every detail, with your soul laid bare. It's not about fragmented memories or random flashes. It's a continuous line, lucid, in order. From the first cry to the last breath. This is the moment when the soul is taken into an experience that many call the life review. And if there's something that makes this review so impactful, it's the fact that you feel everything you caused in others. Every word spoken in love, every gesture of empathy, every forgiveness offered. You relive not just what you did, but what others felt because of you. It's as if the soul experiences, in pure waves of emotion, the ripple effect of every choice. Made someone smile, you feel the light you caused. Wounded someone with contempt, you feel the pain you planted. And the most surprising part, often the greatest moments are not the ones you expected. You thought you would see great achievements, titles, riches, but you are led to relive the day you helped someone in silence, or the moment you stayed by someone's side without knowing what to say. The simplest gestures are the ones that shine the brightest. It's here that many souls are astonished, realizing that what the world valued so much, fame, status, power, in reality, weighed little or almost nothing. But that hurried phone call made to a lonely heart, the plate of food offered to someone hungry, the forgiveness given when it was easier to hold a grudge, these actions shine like stars in the sky of eternity. The soul finally understands that life was not about having, but about being, about choosing goodness, even amidst chaos, about spreading light, even in days of darkness. And in this deep dive into itself, the soul begins to perceive what it failed to live because of fear, pride, or ignorance. It sees the dreams it abandoned, the promises it didn't fulfill, the truths it silenced for convenience, but it also sees the times it chose to love, even without the guarantee of return, the times it fell and had the courage to rise again, the times it decided to keep walking, even when broken. This review is not just a judgment, it's an eternal mirror, where you see yourself as you truly were, and understand who you could have been. But it doesn't end here, because after this immersion into its own existence, the soul is led to something even more sublime, something that cannot be fully explained with words, only felt in the depth of the spirit. It is time for the encounter. Nothing can prepare the soul for this moment. No memorized prayer, no theological theory, no painted image, because now, it is before the source, before the one who is light, without shadow, love without measure, truth without end. It is impossible to accurately describe what happens when the soul feels, for the first time, in full plenitude, the divine presence. Some call it God, others, supreme consciousness, creator, source, eternal one. But when it manifests, there is no doubt, there is no resistance. The soul knows. And here, everything depends on how life was lived while incarnated. This experience is not the same for everyone. For some, this encounter is like coming home after a long journey, an embrace that welcomes, that dissolves all fear, that makes every scar of existence make sense. It is a light that does not blind, but reveals, a vibration so intense with love that the words forgiveness and grace take on a new dimension. But for others, that same light that consoles also confronts, because it reveals, without mercy, everything that was denied. Every time ego was chosen over compassion, pride over humility, control over surrender, the soul, before this presence, cannot lie. It feels, with absolute clarity, how far it drifted from what it came to be. And that is where many weep, not out of fear, but out of regret, because they realize that the Creator was never distant, but that their own choices created the abyss. Those who cultivated the light, even with failures, feel a profound resonance with this presence. They are recognized, not for what they showed to the world, but for who they were when no one was watching. They are embraced, not for having been perfect, but for having sincerely sought truth, love, and justice. Those who hardened their hearts, those who lived only for themselves, feel the weight of absence, not as punishment, but as the natural result of the vibration they nourished. This presence, which many imagine as a distant and judging figure, reveals itself as something much purer and more absolute. It does not condemn, it merely shows, and in showing, it heals, transforms, awakens. For some, it is the realization of the purest love. For others, it is the remembrance of the love they denied themselves and others. But whatever the experience, after encountering this presence, nothing remains the same. The soul understands that everything it lived had a purpose, and it begins to seek to understand the reason for its very existence. This is the moment when everything gains meaning, or it should, because what comes next is the answer that everyone carries in silence, but few dare to ask, why did I live this life? And then, everything falls silent, as if the very universe were holding its breath. The soul, already pierced by the truth and touched by the divine presence, begins to see the complete panorama of its own existence. Not isolated facts, but the meaning behind each one. It's as if life, with all its pains, encounters, mistakes, and miracles, were placed before the soul like a great puzzle. And piece by piece, it understands what once seemed like chaos was construction, what seemed like loss was preparation, what seemed like punishment was refinement. In this moment, the soul perceives what is rarely seen in life, the purpose, why it came into the world, which missions it accepted before birth, which talents were granted, which souls were linked to its journey, and most painfully, which of these missions were fulfilled, and which were abandoned. The soul reviews the moments when it was called to heal, teach, forgive, and did not listen. The moments when it could have been a bridge, and chose to be a wall. The sacred encounters that were wasted due to pride, haste, or distraction. But it also sees the times when, even exhausted, it chose to love. Even wounded, it chose to serve. Even afraid, it chose to act with faith. The soul understands that nothing was by chance, not the family into which it was born, not the pains it endured, not the brief joys, not the long silences. Everything was part of a greater design, drawn with love but entrusted to free will. And it is precisely here that many souls face a profound, sometimes uncomfortable, the experience with the divine. That sublime moment from the previous chapter is not the same for everyone, because the level of light the soul can withstand, the depth of love it can feel, the extent of purpose it can comprehend, depends directly on how it lived while incarnated. It is not God who limits, it is the soul, with its choices, that defines the frequency of the encounter. For those who lived with truth, every answer is revelation. For those who lived in shadow, every answer is an exposed wound. This part of the spiritual journey is not about reward or punishment, It is about clarity. The soul sees what it built, or destroyed, with the gift of life. And this understanding brings either peace or profound regret. But even at this point, the story does not end. Because now, with everything revealed, truth, past, purpose, the soul prepares for something even more touching, the reunion. The moment when souls recognize each other, and eternal connections finally reveal themselves. Nothing touches as deeply as the reunion. It's as if suddenly, the soul crosses an invisible threshold, and on the other side, faces begin to appear. But they are not just memories, they are living presences. Presences that vibrate with an indescribable emotional force. They are people who marked your life. Family, friends, mentors, some who departed before you. Others you might never have imagined meeting again. This moment is not just an emotional reunion, it is a spiritual recognition. Souls recognize each other, not by body, but by energy, by love, by the marks left on each other throughout existence. It's as if, suddenly, you understood the depth of each bond, the reasons why certain people appeared in your life, and how each one helped shape your journey. And then, the unexpected happens. You encounter souls you hurt, souls you wounded, people with whom you had conflicts, ruptures, unresolved pains. But now, everything is exposed. The truth can no longer be avoided, and pride no longer exists. There is only room for what is essential: forgiveness, the asking, the acceptance, the reunion in its purest form. It is in this sacred space that many souls find liberation, because they understand that what was not resolved in life can be healed in eternity. But the process is deeper, more intense. Some reunions are accompanied by tears, not of sadness, but of release. Others are accompanied by a joy so profound that it resembles nothing ever felt in the material world. It's as if the soul vibrates in harmony with another soul, two consciousnesses that recognize, honor, and heal each other. There are also surprising reunions, people you thought insignificant, but who were instruments of God at crucial moments. The elderly woman who comforted you on a hard day, the child who made you smile when you thought about giving up, the stranger who forgave you without ever demanding explanations. These souls, these small lights, now shine with incalculable intensity, and show that nothing was in vain. You finally understand that every relationship, no matter how brief or difficult, carried a spiritual purpose, that every encounter was a mirror, a challenge, a gift. But like everything in this journey, even reunions must come to an end, or rather, a transition. Because after recognizing others, the soul must return to looking at itself. And now, there are no more questions. There is only a call, a soft whisper, but irresistible. Something that says now it's time to move on. And what comes next is the threshold of eternity. Everything around begins to change. The light that once surrounded the reunited souls slowly starts to dissolve, and a new kind of silence sets in. But it is not an empty silence. It is the silence that precedes something great, something definitive. The soul feels it, not with ears, but with its entire being. The time has come. The call to eternity does not come from outside. There are no angels pointing the way with trumpets. There are no words spoken aloud, but the soul knows. It feels a gentle yet powerful pull, as if a greater force were tenderly guiding it, but with no return. This call is not the same for everyone. Each soul experiences it according to the vibration it cultivated in life, the consciousness it awakened, the level of light it achieved. For some, it is like crossing a field of absolute peace, where everything pulses with love, surrender, and freedom. For others, it is a path of purification, where the soul still needs to shed weights, strip away attachments, and deeply understand everything that still needs healing. But the movement is the same, the crossing, the step towards the unknown, and at the same time towards the deepest sense of home. Some describe this passage as traversing a portal of light, others as dissolving into a presence so vast and serene that the very human identity expands until it touches infinity. The soul is not forced to follow. It chooses, but this choice is not rational. It is as if, after everything it saw, felt, and understood, it simply knows what to do. And then, it moves on, without baggage, without past, without fear. What lies on the other side? It is impossible to describe, because it is a place where time does not exist, where the I merges with the all, and where love is the only possible language. The call to eternity is the final seal of this journey, and also the beginning of something beyond comprehension. But before this crossing happens, the soul looks back one last time, and in that instant, the question that echoes in silence is simple, but definitive: did I live as I should have lived? Maybe you are there, on the other side of the screen, with your heart tightened, maybe in silence, maybe in tears, or maybe in reflection, because if there's one thing these post-death revelations show us, it's that the life we have now matters more than we imagine. Every word spoken, every choice made, every moment ignored, everything builds what the soul will carry with it. Death is not the end. It is just the doorway. What lies beyond is a reflection of what was cultivated here and now. You don't have to wait for your last breath to awaken. You can, right now, choose to live with more truth, more love, more consciousness. You can forgive before it's too late. You can love more deeply. You can be who you came to be. Eternity begins now. And if all this touched you, it's no coincidence. Maybe your soul recognized something. Maybe it remembered who you are. You don't need to wait for death to discover the truth, nor for pain to start changing. The soul cries out, now, because those who desire a peaceful reunion, those who dream of light, of calm, of the embrace of the divine, must start planting it today. Not tomorrow, not when there's time left. It's for yesterday. Choose to live with more purpose, with more forgiveness, with more truth. Eternity begins before death, and every small choice you make builds the passage that will come. If this message touched your soul, leave your like right now. Subscribe to the channel Inner Light, Infinite Wisdom. Activate the notification bell to receive upcoming videos, and share this content with someone you love, because it might be the seed that will blossom in another soul. And I invite you to comment below, what did you feel watching this video? What did your soul perceive? See you in the next video. Until then, keep your vibration high and your mind connected to the divine.